After my third miscarriage, Jason Wyatt walked into my hospital room with a pregnant woman beside him. "Let's get a divorce," he said coldly. "If you want to blame something, blame your useless womb. You just can't give me a child." When Jason and that woman left, the room fell silent again. The smell of disinfectant pierced my nose, mocking my pathetic state. I didn't cry. I simply sat up, reached for my phone, and dialed a number. "Attorney Lynn," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "I want a divorce. Jason cheated during our marriage. The evidence. I'll send it to you shortly." After hanging up, I opened the drawer and pulled out an old voice recorder I used to document doctor's notes. Today, that habit became my lifeline. I pressed play. Jason's voice, "Let's divorce. Your womb is useless," came through clearly, along with that woman's soft, fake sympathy. I closed my eyes, took a long breath, and sent the files out, fully encrypted. A few days later, I was discharged from the hospital and returned home. Jason was ordering the housekeepers to move his belongings. When he saw me, he sneered. "Thought you'd be dramatic enough to try something stupid." I ignored him, walked straight to the study, and retrieved several documents from the safe. "Sign these." I placed the divorce agreement in front of him. "The assets will be split according to the contract, and I want 30% of the shares under your name." Jason's expression darkened instantly. "In your dreams." I met his gaze, my tone steady. "Do you want me to play the recording of you transferring assets during our marriage? Or should we let the judge hear you dragging your mistress into my hospital room to force a divorce? What do you think the court will decide?" His pupils contracted. For the first time, I saw fear on his face. "Nora," he growled. "You set me up?" I protected myself. I smiled faintly. "Sign it, and we're done. Refuse, and I'll see you in court, and we'll see whose reputation survives." He stared at me for a long time before finally grabbing a pen and signing. "You'd better never show up in front of me again." He spat before slamming the door on his way out. The divorce agreement was signed, but the war had only just begun. A week later, I received a call from Jason's mother, Margaret Wyatt. Her tone was as condescending as ever. "Nora, come back tomorrow and clear out your things from the house. And, there are some matters we need to discuss." I knew this wouldn't be just a discussion. The Wyatts would never accept losing 30% of the company shares. The next day, I returned alone to the mansion that used to be called home. Margaret sat on the main seat in the living room, perfectly groomed and expressionless. Jason wasn't present, but his older brother, Ethan Wyatt, sat beside her, his face cold. "Sit," Margaret said, lifting her chin slightly. I didn't move. I stood in the center of the room, tense as a drawn bowstring. "My things are already packed. Just say what you want." Margaret's gaze swept over me sharply. "Nora, I know Jason wronged you, but marriage has its ties. Must you really force things to such extremes? That 30% stake is the foundation of the Wyatt family. You cannot take it." I almost laughed. The foundation? When Jason started his company, half of his startup capital came from my parents' savings. And now you want to talk to me about your family's foundation? Ethan slammed the table. "That was a gift. Nora, don't push your luck. Do you think someone like you can hold on to those shares? Whether I can or can't is my business." I met his eyes steadily. "The legal documents are crystal clear. If you want to take them by force, try." Margaret inhaled deeply, her voice softening with a more poisonous undertone. "Nora, you're still young. Your future is long. We can give you a large amount of cash, enough for the rest of your life. Why ruin your reputation over pride? A divorced woman who can't bear children, if the public finds out. How will you live?" The words were needles dipped in venom, aimed straight at my deepest scar. But strangely, I didn't feel pain. Instead, something inside me ignited, hot and fierce. I looked directly at her. "Mrs. Wyatt, I can't have children? Maybe you should ask your dear son what kind of supplements he prepared for me before and after each miscarriage. Or perhaps you should check the prenatal screening of that woman he brought home. See if that baby is guaranteed to make it to term." Margaret's face turned ghostly white. Ethan shot to his feet. "What nonsense are you spouting?" I took out my phone and pressed a button. The recording started playing, clear, unbroken. It contained everything Margaret had just said, including her remarks about a barren woman and the attempts to pressure me into giving up the shares. I know the Wyatt family cares deeply about reputation. I lifted the phone slightly. "Tell me, if this recording gets out, along with evidence of Jason's infidelity and asset transfer, will the public mock me the abandoned wife? Or will they condemn your family for being cold, vicious, and shameless? The room fell dead silent. Margaret's fingers dug into the armrest. Ethan's face turned a furious shade of iron blue. I put my phone away. The shares stay with me. Not a single % less. And tell Jason he and his child had better stay far away from me. I find them filthy. With that, I turned and walked out. The Wyatt family's silence lasted 3 days. On the morning of the 4th day, just as I woke up, Attorney Lynn called. His tone was unusually grave. Ms. Hart, sorry. Ms. Nora Hart, Wyatt Media just pushed out several articles through affiliated outlets insinuating that you were the reason the marriage failed. They're hinting that you demanded an outrageous separation payout because of personal physical issues. They're trying to steer public opinion. I turned on my computer. Several well-known local finance and gossip accounts had posted veiled stories. Heiress dream shattered, woman with fertility issues demands massive compensation after divorce. Inside scoop, why rising business star Jason Wyatt's marriage fell apart. In the comments, bots were already at work. A hen that can't lay eggs still wants inheritance? Manipulative gold digger. She's just trying to cash out before getting kicked out. Attorney Lynn sounded anxious. Do we issue a lawyer's statement immediately to clarify? No. I stared at the twisted words on the screen. After the initial sting, an eerie calm settled inside me. A statement is too weak. If they want to play the media game, then I'll play something bigger. I hung up, took a long breath. It was time. I logged into a verified social media account I had prepared long ago, using my legal name, Nora Hart. No long explanations. No theatrics. I uploaded 3 audio files, cleaned and edited only for privacy but with all critical information intact, and wrote about my marriage. Here is the truth. 1. The truth behind my fertility issues. Audio 1. Jason demanding divorce in my hospital room. 2. The truth behind the so-called exorbitant separation fee. Audio 2. Jason's mother Margaret and his brother Ethan attempting to coerce me into giving up legal shares. 3. About the gifted startup funds, documents, partial bank records showing my parents' financial support and Jason's marital asset transfers. I don't need sympathy. I need justice. At Jason Wyatt at Wyatt Corp. See you in court. I hit post. For a moment, the world was silent. Then my phone began vibrating non-stop. Notifications exploding like fireworks. I muted all of them except Attorney Lynn. Ms. Hart, he exclaimed. Your post is going viral. The entire comment section flipped in less than an hour. By midday, the internet had turned into a wildfire. Holy, this is the scandal of the year. That man is trash. How dare he bring the mistress to the hospital? The mother called her barren? Cancel the whole family. She isn't asking for anything, she's reclaiming what's hers. 30% is too little. At Wyatt Corp, come out and explain your family values. Wyatt Corp's official account became a battlefield. Stock prices fluctuating violently. The media outlets who posted false rumors scrambled to delete their articles. But screenshots were everywhere. That evening, my phone rang again. Jason. His voice came through gritted teeth, practically shaking with rage. Nora, are you insane? You're going to destroy the Wyatts. Destroy the company. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows of my apartment, watching the city lights flicker on, I answered calmly, Jason, the moment you brought that woman into my hospital room, you should have expected this. And this is only the beginning. I ended the call and blocked every number linked to him. On the 3rd day of the media explosion, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. The moment I picked up, a low, controlled voice came through. Nora? This is Ethan Wyatt. My grip tightened around the phone. Ethan, the older brother who slammed the table in my face at the mansion, who had tried intimidation and manipulation. He was the last person I expected to call. What do you want? My voice was colder than ice. The situation online is affecting the corporation severely. Ethan didn't waste time. Father is furious. Jason went too far this time. I didn't respond. He continued, gauging my silence. Father believes family matters shouldn't be aired publicly. He wants to sit down and discuss a better settlement, one worth far more than that 30%. In exchange, you'll delete all recordings, remove your post, and release a statement saying it was all a misunderstanding made in distress. I had to suppress a bark of laughter. A better settlement? Just a more expensive gag order. Mr. Wyatt, I said flatly. Do you really think I've come this far for money? He paused for a beat. Nora. Ethan's tone dipped into warning. I understand you're upset, but you need to realize the protections we can offer exceed anything you can imagine. Fighting us benefits no one, especially not you. Public opinion is fleeting, but the Wyatt family's influence isn't something you should challenge. There it was. The velvet-wrapped threat. The family's foundation? I echoed with a dry laugh. Is it built on lies, betrayal, and abuse? Nora. Ethan's patience was thinning. You don't want to go down this path. You're not the first woman who thought she could what? I cut him off sharply. Walk away? Stand up for myself? Or survive without your charity? Silence crackled on the line. Listen carefully, I said. If you think you can scare me into shutting up, try harder. I'm done living under the Wyatt's shadow. If you have tricks up your sleeve, use them. And I hung up. That call was a warning. It also marked a shift. The Wyatt family stopped fighting openly online. Instead, their counterattack became darker, quieter, more vicious. My social media accounts and inbox were flooded with coordinated bot assaults, filled with filth and death threats. Attorney Lynn informed me the court had received a deliberately convoluted challenge from Wyatt Corp's legal team, questioning the authenticity of my evidence and dragging out proceedings. But what shattered me wasn't directed at me. It was directed at my parents. 2 days later, my mother called, her voice trembling through tears. Nora, a few people claiming to be journalists came to the house. They asked your father strange questions about his past business, hinting that we raised you to be greedy. Your father's blood pressure shot up. My nails cut into my palm. They couldn't touch me, so they targeted the people I loved most. Mom, don't worry, I said, keeping my voice steady. Don't open the door for anyone. I'll handle everything. After hanging up, fury burned in my chest like an inferno. The Wyatts had made their move. Time for me to make mine. But before I could plan my next step, another unknown number sent a single, chilling text, "Be careful. Jason is desperate. The woman with him is dangerous. Also, check your old medical records carefully. Someone who's had enough." My blood froze. Medical records? The miscarriages. Were they really accidents? The Wyatt family's counterattack was ugly and effective. My parents being harassed shattered whatever last bit of patience I had. And that mysterious text, medical records? My miscarriages, not accidents? A cold dread spread through me. I had to move. Fast. I made 2 phone calls immediately. The first was to my college friend, Quinn Ford, now running a well-known private security company. Quinn, I need urgent help. Send 2 reliable people to escort my parents out of state right away. I'll text you the destination. Absolute confidentiality. Cost is not an issue. Quinn answered without hesitation. On it. My guys will be there within half an hour. And Nora, be careful. The second call was to Attorney Lynn. Attorney Lynn. The Wyatts sent people to my parents' house to pressure them. I'm handling security, but I need you to help me find a private investigator, clean background, top-tier skills. I want every detail of my medical records examined, my checkups, the miscarriages, the supplements Jason gave me, everything, and investigate the woman he's with. All of it. His tone hardened. Understood. I'll secure all evidence of harassment. I'll also contact an investigator today. I'll report back the moment I have something. I went to my parents' house myself after that. My mother's eyes were still red. My father's face flushed with anger and humiliation. The sight stabbed into me like a blade. But I couldn't show weakness. I held their hands firmly. Dad. Mom. I'm sorry. I've dragged you into this. My father shook his head with a weary sigh. Nora, don't push yourself too hard. I won't. I forced a smile. And I promise everything that was taken from me, I'll take back. And every wrong done to us, I'll make them pay. After sending my parents away under Quinn's protection, I returned to my apartment and began organizing every piece of evidence I had, adding documentation of the harassment against my parents to the case file. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore. It was psychological warfare. A few days later, Attorney Lynn arrived with the first report from the private investigator. MS. Hart, he said grimly, about the woman, Jessica Yates, the mistress. She's not as simple as she appears. She owns an overseas shell company with vague trading activities. Her financial ties with Jason began much earlier than expected, in fact, before your second miscarriage. My heart clenched. That early? And, Attorney Lynn added, lowering his voice, when our investigator tried checking your prenatal and miscarriage records at the hospitals, he found anomalies. Someone had already accessed and cleaned parts of your files. Efficiently, professionally. A chill crawled down my spine. So Jason, or Jessica, was covering tracks. meaning they had something to hide. Just then, my phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. This time, the message was even more specific. They're erasing evidence. The key person is in the city now. 2 hospital records office. Surname, Wang. Move fast. Also, Jessica has overseas accounts. She and Jason used them to transfer assets. My heart pounded violently. This anonymous insider was either a powerful ally or baiting me into danger. But either way, I couldn't ignore it. Attorney Lin, I said decisively. Push the investigation on 2 fronts, City No. 2 Hospital. Records Department, Jessica's overseas accounts, and we need a sample from Jessica, hair, blood, anything. It needs to be tested together with my medical history. Full toxicology and genetic screening. I could feel it. I was getting close to the real truth. And whatever it was, the Wyatts were terrified of it. The records administrator at City No. 2 Hospital, Mr. Wang, was the most crucial lead I had, but also the most dangerous. The Wyatts had already cleaned the files once. If I sent an investigator again, it might tip them off, or worse, get someone hurt. So I decided to go myself. I dressed in a dark, low-key outfit, tied my hair up, put on a mask and glasses, and slipped a tiny recording device into my coat pocket. Then I waited until late Friday afternoon, when staff were tired and eager to leave. The medical records department sat at the far end of the admin building's 2nd floor. The lighting was dim. A man in his 50s sat behind a computer, hair thinning, a badge reading Wang Jian. He looked up briefly when I entered, alert, wary. Yes. What do you need? Hello, Mr. Wang, I said gently, handing him a forged research ID I'd prepared. I'm working on a retroactive reproductive health study. We need an older case file as a sample. Here's the approval letter from our ethics board. He glanced at the documents, didn't examine them closely, but his fingers drummed nervously on the desk. This doesn't fit the standard process. I understand completely. I lowered my voice, leaning closer. But this sample is important. And of course, we're prepared to offer compensation for your help. His expression twitched. Not outrage, fear. That alone told me a lot. If the Wyatts had him fully under their command, he wouldn't hesitate to reject me loudly. He wasn't an accomplice. He was caught. Time to shift strategy. Mr. Wang, I said quietly, I know someone pressured you to handle a file. But think about it. If this thing explodes, you will be the one blamed, not the people who ordered you. They'll sacrifice you in a heartbeat. Cold sweat broke across his forehead. I slid a small slip of paper across the desk. A number. A life-changing amount for a middle-aged admin like him. This is what I offer. You give me a copy of the original file. I walk out, and no one ever knows you helped me. Or, you keep cleaning things for them until they bury you with the evidence. The room went pin-drop silent. His breathing grew uneven. Then, abruptly, Mr. Wang stood, walked to the door, locked it, returned to the desk, and began typing with trembling hands. Name and hospitalization dates? He whispered. I told him. His fingers flew. A hidden directory opened. He navigated to an encrypted partition. I didn't delete everything, he muttered. I kept backups elsewhere. Something about this felt wrong. The printer started spitting out sheets, one after another. I scanned the first page, and froze. Measurements from my prenatal checkups. Unexplained abnormalities. Unflagged by doctors, because someone intervened? Then, a copy of a supplement sent for outside analysis. Sender, Jason Wyatt. The results, several suspicious markers circled in red. A handwritten note below, possible presence of mifepristone and high-dose blood-activating agents. My throat tightened. Mifepristone, a drug that can induce miscarriage. He had drugged me, repeatedly. My hands shook as I gathered the stack of evidence. Mr. Wang shoved it into a folder, voice shaking. Go, now, and don't come back here again. I left a thick envelope of cash in his drawer. Then I walked out fast, heart pounding. The hallway was empty, but the hairs on my neck stood up. My phone buzzed. A message from Attorney Lin, MS. Hart, they know someone accessed your medical file. Jason is using connections to track the trail. Be careful, now. A chill shot down my spine. I hurried down the stairs, and 2 large men in security uniforms stepped into my path, blocking both sides. Their stances were too disciplined. Not Real hospital guards. Ma'am, one said flatly, hand drifting to his baton. We need you to come with us. There are some questions we need to ask. My pulse quickened. They weren't here to ask questions. They were here to take the evidence from me, by force. The two fake security guards closed in, their eyes sharp and predatory. They blocked both my exits. A direct fight? Impossible. I'd lose the evidence, and maybe much more. My gaze flicked around the lobby behind them. A fire alarm lever was mounted near a pillar. To the right, a hallway leading to the ER area, where the crowd was thick and chaotic. I forced my breathing calm. "All right," I said quietly. "I'll go with you." I stepped back slightly as if complying, my right hand sliding into my pocket, fingers closing around my keys, gripping the sharpest one. The moment the guard on my left reached for my arm, I struck. I whipped around and slashed the fire alarm glass with my key. Crash! The glass shattered. A beat later, WAH! The piercing fire alarm exploded through the entire floor. People froze, then chaos broke loose. Fire? Run! What happened? I took advantage of the split second of confusion, grabbed an empty tote bag I'd carried in my other hand, and hurled it directly into the face of the guard on the right. He stumbled back, cursing. I didn't wait. I turned and bolted toward the ER hallway, melting into the panicked crowd. "Stop!" The guard roared behind me. Footsteps thundered after me. I didn't look back. The ER was packed, nurses rushing, patients holding 4 poles, people shouting. Perfect. I weaved between gurneys and wheelchairs, using everything as cover, but they were still behind me, trained, fast, determined. I had seconds ahead. A nurse pushed a rolling medication cart out of the preparation room. My opening. I accelerated. At the last moment, I pretended to be shoved by the crowd and collided hard into the cart. "Hey!" The nurse yelped. The cart toppled, glass vials shattered. 4 bags and syringes spilled across the floor. A pile of dangerous debris blocked the narrow hallway. The guards skidded, forced to slow and deter. I broke through the back exit of the ER and ran outside, straight into a service lane behind the hospital. Right on cue, a black car rolled up beside me. The window dropped. "Get in!" It was one of Quinford's men. The emergency signal I'd activated earlier had reached them. I jumped in, slammed the door, and the car gunned forward. Through the rear window, I saw the 2 fake guards burst out of the exit, just in time to watch us speed away. They punched the wall in fury. I leaned back, chest heaving. Sweat plastered my shirt to my spine. My hands shook violently, but the folder against my chest was safe. "Lose them," I said hoarsely. Already on it. The driver swerved skillfully through traffic, disappearing into a maze of streets. Gradually, the adrenaline ebbed, leaving a cold, clear focus. I pulled out my phone and called Attorney Lynn. He answered instantly. "MS. Hart, are you safe?" "I got the evidence," I said, breath still uneven. "Jason poisoned me. The supplements he gave me contained miscarriage-inducing drugs. Prepare everything, we're filing charges for deliberate harm, medical tampering, and assault. And file for a restraining order against Jason and the woman he's with." On the other end of the line, Attorney Lynn exhaled sharply. "I'll draft it immediately." I looked down at the folder on my lap, the truth I had risked my life to get. Jason Wyatt tried to destroy my future. Now I would destroy his. 48 hours after retrieving the crucial medical evidence, while Attorney Lynn and I were finalizing the charges against Jason Wyatt and Jessica Yates, my phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., Southside Serenity Tea House, Bamboo Room. Bring what you have. We can make a deal. Ethan Wyatt." Ethan. I stared at the screen. Ethan Wyatt. The man who once slammed the table at me, who tried to intimidate me, then later to bribe me. The man who represented everything ruthless about the Wyatt family. He was the mysterious informant? The one who warned me? The one who sent me to the right place at the right time? Impossible. Suspicious. Dangerous. Attorney Lynn was alarmed the moment I told him. MS. Hart. Absolutely not. This could be a trap. He might try to seize the evidence, or worse. I sat silently for a long moment. Ethan's earlier phone call had been purely for damage control, but the tone in the text. It wasn't bargaining for the family. It was personal. "Think about it," I said slowly. "If you wanted to take the evidence, he could have arranged for someone to grab me earlier. Why warn me about Jason? Why give inside information?" Attorney Lynn hesitated. "Then what does he want?" I stared at my phone. "A deal," I whispered, but not the kind Jason wanted. Something was broken inside the Wyatt family, and that fracture might be the key to ending this once and for all. "I'm going," I said, but with precautions. The next day, 3 p.m. the Serenity Tea House was quiet, its corridors lined with bamboo and warm lanterns. Quinn's people were already stationed subtly around the building, blending in as customers. I entered the bamboo room, carrying 2 folders, one with the real evidence and one with fakes. I pushed open the door. Ethan Wyatt sat alone at the low wooden table. His suit jacket was loosened, tie undone, a dark fatigue shadowing his face. He looked nothing like the arrogant heir I'd met months ago. "You're punctual," he said. "So are you," I replied, sitting opposite him. He glanced at the folder beside me. "You brought them, and you brought what you promised?" My tone was ice. Ethan poured tea for both of us, though neither of us touched it. "You've always been sharper than Jason realized," he murmured. "Sharper than most of us realized." "Get to the point," he exhaled, shoulders tense. Jason and Jessica's actions didn't just cross lines, they jeopardized the Wyatt Corporation. Father's health has declined. The board is restless. Our investors are panicking. If this becomes a full-blown criminal scandal, Wyatt Corp collapses. Not my problem. I know. He met my eyes. And I'm not asking you to save the family. I'm here to save myself. I raised a brow. Go on. Ethan slid a small flash drive across the table. That contains the full map of Jason's asset transfers, the overseas accounts, shell companies, all of it, and recordings of Jason and Jessica discussing what they did to you. A cold wave rolled through me. He continued, "I'm giving you the evidence to bury them. Completely. In exchange, I want one thing: you destroy the originals of your medical files. And you stop the damage at Jason. Leave the Wyatt Corporation out of it." Ah, there it was. He wasn't asking for mercy. He was cutting off the rot, "Jason, to save the tree. You're willing to sacrifice your own brother?" I asked. His jaw tightened. He crossed a line we can't come back from. Jessica pushed him into madness, and he dragged the family with him. If he walks free, he'll finish destroying us. And why help me? I pressed. You could handle this internally. Internally? Ethan laughed bitterly. Jason has already covered his tracks in the company network. But you're the only one he didn't prepare for. You're the only one he underestimated. And now, you're the only one who can end him. I studied him. What guarantee do I have that the Wyatt family won't retaliate later? You don't. He met my gaze firmly. But if you destroy the originals, I'll make sure no one from my family touches you or your parents again. I let a long silence linger between us. Then I pushed my folder toward him, the one full of fakes. Fine. Ethan blinked, startled by how quickly I agreed. Jason and Jessica pay for everything, I said coldly, and the Wyatt family stays out of my life. Forever. He nodded tightly. Deal. He took the folder without checking it. I picked up the flash drive. Standing, I looked down at him. If you break your word, Ethan, believe me, I'll come for the entire Wyatt empire. For the first time, Ethan's expression flickered with something like respect. I know. Outside, I slipped into Quinn's waiting car. I texted Attorney Lynn, "We have enough evidence to bury them. Proceed with all charges." Inside the flash drive were bombshells, money trails, recordings, even Jessica's connections to overseas criminal entities. This wasn't just infidelity. It was conspiracy, fraud, premeditated harm. And within 48 hours, police raided the upscale club where Jason and Jessica were celebrating. Both were arrested on the spot. Wyatt Corp immediately issued a public statement cutting ties with Jason entirely, declaring his actions personal misconduct, and distancing the company from the crimes. Ethan took control of the corporation almost overnight. The empire Jason tried to steal finally recognized him only as a liability. When the trial began, I didn't attend every session, but on the day of sentencing, I stood silently in the back row. Jason looked haggard and hollow, eyes sunken, features twisted with disbelief and desperation. Jessica was pale and trembling, and in the face of overwhelming evidence, the court gave its verdict: Jason Wyatt, guilty on multiple counts, including intentional harm and fraudulent asset transfer. Jessica Yates, accessory to all charges. They were both sentenced to prison. As the bailiffs led them away, Jason's gaze swept over the courtroom, frantic and pleading. He never found me. I had already turned to leave. For the first time in years, the air I breathed felt clean. 3 years later, my solo art exhibition, Rebirth, opened at the most prestigious museum in the city. Crowds filled the gallery, pausing before each painting, bold strokes, vivid colors, works brimming with life. No one knew these paintings were born from countless sleepless nights, From nightmares and healing. From clawing my way out of darkness. Congratulations, MS. Heart. The gallery director said warmly. Several pieces have already been reserved. I nodded politely. Financial success was nice, necessary even, but it wasn't what defined my new life. A voice behind me called softly, Nora. I turned. Ethan Wyatt stood there. He looked different, calmer, steadier, stripped of the sharp arrogance he once carried like armor. He wasn't accompanied by assistants, bodyguards, or family, just himself. Mr. Wyatt. I greeted. Neutral. He glanced at one of my paintings, breaking the cocoon. A burst of gold splitting through layers of black. Your work has a lot of strength, he said quietly. Thank you. Silence settled between us. Not hostile but distant, a thin layer of glass separating two people who had survived the same storm but ended up on different shores. He got a sentence reduction, Ethan said suddenly. Jason. He may be released next year. My hand, holding a champagne flute, didn't even tremble. I know, I replied calmly. It no longer mattered. His timeline wasn't my burden. Ethan studied me, as if trying to see whether I was truly untouched. He won't come near you, he promised. And he won't touch your family. That's non-negotiable. I'm not worried. For the first time, Ethan smiled, a faint, tired, sincere smile. You made it out, he said softly. Most people never do, but I didn't need his validation. I nodded once, then walked away. The past was dead. I didn't owe it a backward glance. Later, as the event wound down, I stopped before the only non-sale piece in the exhibition, After the Ashes. A single tender sprout pushing up through gray smoke and charred earth. Hope born from ruin. Someone was already standing there. A tall man in a crisp white shirt, quiet and warm like sunlight through morning fog. Adrian Cole, a rising architect I had collaborated with on a community project. We had grown close in an easy, natural way. He looked at the painting for a long while before turning to me. This, he said, looks like you. I raised an eyebrow. How so? You've been burned, Adrian said gently, but you grew back stronger, and more alive. There was no pity in his voice, only admiration, clean, simple, and steady. I didn't reply. Instead, I looked at the painting again, feeling a quiet sense of peace settle inside me. Revenge had faded. Justice had been served. My family was safe. My career had blossomed. And the woman I once was, the one in the hospital room, shattered, helpless, she was just a memory. My future wasn't defined by trauma anymore, but by my choices. Maybe Adrian and I would grow into something more. Maybe not. Either way, the road ahead was mine alone. I inhaled deeply, the scent of oils, fresh flowers, and possibility filling my lungs. My rebirth didn't belong to anyone else. It was mine, and it was just beginning. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comments section. Here is Roses and Love, sharing stories about marriage and women every day. See you tomorrow.